pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Bigger, roll call, please.
Delaney.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Musgrave. Here. Weinbrunner.
Here.
Kinnaman.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
McKinney.
Here. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Village Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Who supported? Jimmy?
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrunner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is Joe Mishler, the moving wall update. Good evening, Mr. Mishler. Mr. Mishler used to teach in this building, maybe in this classroom.
Never on this end of the building. Am I supposed to give my address? 620 Academy? Okay, good. I think that's what it is. All right, I did want to come, and I'm going around to all the local governments, talking about the traveling wall, which is coming into Holly on August 3rd through August 8th. And this is quite an endeavor. We are very lucky this summer that the wall that we have coming in is only coming into the state one time, and that's here. And the other one from a different company is only coming into the state one time. So that makes us pretty lucky. We don't have to compete with anybody, no neighboring communities or anything like that. Now, as you know, we are going to do a number of things. So we have a committee. The committee meets, we've been meeting every Saturday. And we just completed our very first major fundraiser, and it was exceedingly successful this past weekend, and that was at the Vault. We expected about 100 people. We ended up with over 130 people. And there were very few empty seats around the Vault. So that turned out really well because the wall is expensive. It's $10,000 to just bring it in. And then, of course, you have to pay for the housing and the food and all the stuff for the people who bring it in. And then you have to build a form, some sort of a form that the wall will set on. And then there's all kinds of other expenses like publicity, signage, tents, all that kind of stuff. Right at the moment, we have some other fundraisers planned. May 21st at the Moose Club from 4 to 8. There'll be a spaghetti dinner, and that money's going toward the wall. And there are a couple of other ones. I'm trying to remember. I think it's July 16th. If that's a Saturday, there's going to be a car show right here. It'll be right up. I don't know if they've decided on which parking lot or not. I'm not really on that committee, but that's another fundraiser. We are also selling these very nice T-shirts. They came from Apple Tees. I'm sure this would fit most of you in the audience. This is just my sample shirt. They gave me one to hang to pass around. If you want to buy a shirt, we have them. They're $20. We have them all the way up through 3X and all the way down to small. We didn't get the very small unless you want to buy this one. So those are some of the things we have happening. Now what's going to happen when it gets here? It will come in on a Wednesday. It will be set up Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. I think at 2 o'clock we're going to have the grand opening ceremony. And then on Friday, Friday, we're having a reunion for all veterans. Anybody who's a veteran is welcome to attend, and that will be on the site. Now, we are planning to put it right over here in these open fields, just right across from the west side of East Street here. There's plenty of fields, there's plenty of parking. This is a half replica of the actual Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It's 126 feet. There's two wings. Each one is 126 feet. It's about 6 foot tall, and it will be open 24/7. So we have a lot of work to do. We're looking for volunteers. Volunteers could be anything. We have a number of different posts that people will have to work at. Plus, we need people 24/7 to kind of watch over the whole thing, because we are responsible for the security of it. The closing ceremony will be on Sunday at 3 o'clock. I can't tell you who any of the speakers are, because we're kind of early in the process. I've reached out to a number of people, and I'm just sort of waiting for somebody to call me back and say, yeah, okay. But that's what's coming in this summer, and it's a very special thing. As you know, there are downtown, there are 7 names from Holly who are on, actually 6 of them are on the wall. One is not. Unfortunately, one of the young men who lost their lives was a United States Marine who spent 13 months in Vietnam, and on the first day home was involved in a car accident and killed. And that was Kernan. And the other ones lost their lives in combat, starting with, most people think that only Carl Richter was killed, you know. And I always get a pleasure out of explaining to them, no, he wasn't the only one. So at this point, I'm open to questions, if you'd like. Anybody have any questions about it? Rick is the co-chair, Rick Powers.
I would always say that we're anticipating well over 20,000 visitors to the village. Other cities in our like size, like I think Legant County, I think they had over 20,000 there. So my feeling is, because we're so close to the metropolitan areas, that we very well could have 40 to 60,000 people, but we have no way of knowing. And a lot depends on weather too.
I don't know where we'll put that many people, but we'll find a place. Anybody else have a question about it? 58,318 as of the last time they added names.
Too many.
Exactly.
One
One too many.
Joe, what day did you say for the moose spaghetti dinner?
May 21st.
Thank you.
How many days will it be here?
August 3rd through August 8th. It comes in on a Wednesday. It goes out on a Monday. So, anyone else? And we are, if you'd like to donate, see Rick or myself, and we'll be glad to take your donation, because we could use all the help we can get.
Joe, you were talking about a possible sign-up sheet for the T-shirt, the shirts, and are we going to do that, or you just come over to the? Okay.
Just
Stop
contact
over.
me or contact Rick, and we'll
Okay.
get you a shirt.
Okay.
Mr. Mishler, who's the sponsoring organization of
I'm
the project
sorry,
again?
God, my brain's not working tonight. The American Legion, Post 149, is the sponsoring agency. We actually did a little history. 2.5 years ago, we put in an application to bring the wall, and they agreed. And then COVID hit, and we couldn't bring it in. And finally, they called last fall and said, "Do you still want it?" And we said, in a heartbeat, yeah. So the American Legion put up $2,500 to put the down payment on it.
So if people wanted to donate via check, they could make it out to
Yeah,
the
make
American
a check
Legion
out to
Post
American Legion.
149.
Yes. Anybody else?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Next, not on the agenda, but nevertheless, we will hear from Police Chief Narsh, and he'll offer some recognition of his team.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Council. I brought some friends that dress like me. It's always the best part of any department head or chief to come in here and share with you the good news of our department and the great things that are happening. So, back in August of 2021, Sergeant Denisano retired, and we immediately started the testing process for a sergeant position to replace him. And then just recently, Officer Dan Livingston had tendered a resignation. He's taking a position with another agency. So with that, we had some movement within the department, and I'm extremely proud to introduce our newly advanced team members. And we'll start tonight with Officer to Sergeant Steve Legant. Steve started with Holly PD in January of 2015. As a part-time and moved up to full-time in December of 15. Now, interestingly, I'll talk about a couple of departments he worked at. He forgot one when he gave me this list. So Steve actually worked for me when I was the chief out at Lake Orion, and he quit me to come to Holly. So when I got here, he was here on my first day, and I gave him one of these. Like, I'm following you, buddy.
Yeah, he led you to Holly.
He led me to Holly. He did. He paved the way.
Thank you, Steve.
And Steve advanced to full-time back in December of 15, where he has served until testing for the open sergeant position. So Sergeant Legant has over 20 years of experience in law enforcement, including service with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Lake Tahoe, Nevada, the Dallas Police Department. He served with Anchorage PD in Alaska, and he has an associate's degree in criminal justice from the Oakland Community College. Sergeant Legant was the highest score in our promotional examination and was promoted to sergeant on March 6, 2022, and Steve stated he's really looking forward to using his community and police knowledge to assist the Holly Police Department and advance our skills and improve our services. So I want to welcome Steve to our command staff, and Sergeant Simpson is here. He came in tonight. He's part of the command team, and he just wanted to be here as well to recognize Sergeant Steve Legant. We're still trying to find a seamstress that can get these on, or somebody that can sew these on like really quick. Crazy glue didn't work. Officer Rich Lindquist. And Officer Lindquist started with Holly PD as a part-time officer in June of 2021. Rich has previous law enforcement experience with Kego Harbor and this place called Wall Lake. With Wall Lake Police Departments. And now, since joining Holly PD, he has proven himself to be a valuable team member and investigator. Any of you that watch or review our police Facebook post, Police Blotter, if you see that, Rich's skills are often highlighted in that section. You don't see the officers involved, but Officer Lindquist is doing a great job working the midnight shift and is doing a phenomenal job keeping our streets and community safe. His skills are a huge asset to our patrol force and has proven invaluable with several high-profile investigations. And Officer Lindquist is being advanced to the position of full-time officer effective March 11, 2022. So we want to welcome Officer Rich Lindquist to the full-time family at Holly PD. He's doing a great job. And the Holly PD and community is very fortunate to have the team we have, and I'm proud to have and share that with everyone here tonight. So well done.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after council discussion prior to council vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public are asked to please state their name and address for the record. Items on tonight's agenda include, under old business, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2022 authorizing the scoring key for evaluating recreational marijuana establishment license applications. Item 2, under old business, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2022-005 approving a community benefit list associated with recreational marijuana establishments. Under new business, there are 4 items. Number 1, consideration of the approval of council action request to sign a contract with State Contracting, Inc. Item 2, consideration of council action request to approve the dates of the fiscal year 2022 budget workshops, including ARPA fund update. Item 3, special event, Hogs and Ministry Blessing of the Bikes. Item 4, special event, Holly Little League Opening Day Parade. So those are the items on the agenda for which you can make comments during council's consideration of those items, after council discussion and prior to council vote. Anyone offering public comment this evening? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Nick Zebiak.
If you'll set up the microphone, we can get that on the record. Thank you very much.
Nick Zebiak, 408 South Broad Street. I'll be very brief here. I just want to read something in the record, and I brought out copies for everybody here to have. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, so I'd like to bring to attention the daily traffic congestion we have in front of the middle school every school day afternoon at North Holly Road. Private cars fill the lot while school buses line up for a quarter mile or more. I suggest that the Holly Village Council come up with some sort of solution to this ongoing problem. Makes perfect sense that a school bus would have priority over a passenger car to enter the school, pick up students, and take them home. This is not the case. The problem is ongoing and needs attention of this body for remedy. I don't know what the solution is, but I bring this issue up and ask that the council take this matter up and come up with a plan to alleviate the problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment in the back row?
Can't tell, but I'm smiling. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Joanna Barnes, 3393 Harrington Drive. So there's 2 things that I wanted to bring up. First of all, I want to make sure that I take time to thank the council for everything that they are doing as far as bringing the work that's coming with the Vietnam Wall coming. I think that that's wonderful. The parks, the money that's been allotted for the parks, super excited to hear about that. I think that that's a great thing to happen. A couple of concerns that I have, though, with this increase in traffic and people. You know who I am. I'm the garbage lady. We know this. I go around town, and as I do my walks and my bike rides, I pick up trash. I love our community, and I think we live in a beautiful place. And as the snow is melting, it's becoming increasingly obvious how much trash we have already that's all over the place. I'd like to know what the council is going to do to address these issues as we continue with these increased events where we have more traffic that's coming in. What are we doing to help DPW to make sure that they can handle this increased traffic and the garbage that is already existing in our town? In so many places that are quote-unquote communal areas that nobody really claims, it gets blown up by the fences, it gets hit by the lawnmowers, and it's everywhere, and then it's all over the place, and it starts to look like a place that we don't care about. We've got people that are coming to our town. We want to show them how proud we are of our town. Having garbage everywhere is not how we do that. So that's my one thing. And then my other thing is just with the parks, making sure that we are as transparent as possible with how that money's spent, making sure that it's done in a place that is wise and equitable so that we're making sure that the best things are taken care of. I'd hate to see a bunch of light posts and ornamental stuff go in instead of the things that really need to be addressed, and to make sure that the parks that maybe get missed sometimes get a little bit of love too. So that's all I have to say. Thank you again for everything that you guys are doing. And if anybody wants to reach out to me personally about plans that you have for that trash, you know that I'm on board with helping out. I'll help out in the community. I just need to know I can't rally the community by myself. So I'm relying on you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other offerings for public comment? Mr. Love?
John Love, North Saginaw, 200. Holly's going to pot. And it should have been handled in a more open fashion instead of this secret deal that you've got going. I tried to get it when it was published in the paper, and they wouldn't let me even take a picture of it and read these 22 pages. That's not openness. There should have been a public hearing. Instead, there it is. That's unacceptable. But that's Holly style. I gave you a copy of this proposal for a referendum to place on the ballot a proposal to rescind the two ordinances that created these 2,200 marijuana facilities. So that's what I have ahead. Also, I gave you a copy of this outline of marijuana that was in the Flint Journal in February that explains a lot of the issues that haven't been dealt with. There's problems with the water, the sewage, the disposal, and supervision and enforcement and ordinance. So I guess that's why you have this deal coming up to raise the taxes by a third for police and fire so that they can police these places. You don't have the depth to even deal with the problems that are going to be associated with this. And then on top of that, you had to insult by shortening the buffer zone from schools and churches from the Michigan standard of 1,000 feet. You cut that in half, 500 feet. We're just a small town. We got to have the 22 facilities here. This is a disgrace. And the way you've conducted yourself is a disgrace in this fashion. No openness, none of the problems that are going to be generated, and they're going to, quote, handle it. They're not going to be able to handle it. People, I found an error in the city charter on the petitioning process that was needs to be corrected. You don't even have the correct city charter on petitioning. And this is beyond your ability to handle. It should be placed on the ballot, and then we'll have a discussion about it as a community. Not, this is the way it's going to be. That's not what Holly is going to be known for. We can take down the signs, historic Holly, home of the Broncos, whatever we got. We're going to have a new one. Come on to Holly and take advantage of this opportunity we have to have 22 facilities here so you can get one-stop shopping and maintenance and all of the problems. Detroit doesn't even allow this, so that might give you some kind of an indication of what's going on. They don't do it there. There's only 100 municipalities that allow this system out of the over 1,000 municipalities. So it's not all over. We're going to be the center. As I told you before, I talked to the people over in Fenton. They're not going to do this. And we'll have the signs up. Come on, get off the expressway and come to Holly and have a good time. No. Do your shopping. This is just a disgrace and an embarrassment. So that's what I'm working on, this petition and greater knowledge. But you don't even have the depth to handle it. And it's going to be really a mess. Wonder who's going to be responsible for that. You are. You're the only ones that are responsible for it. And to have it encouraged and dealt with in this fashion is just disrespectful to the community. I've talked to people about the petition. Some people want to sign it, some people don't. But without an in-depth dealing with it, that's what it's going to be. My time's up. You got time now.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? Mr. Feeney.
Okay. Excuse me. Had a slight family crisis tonight, a loose rabbit. I think I'm getting an update on my phone on that, so. Pat Feeney, 210 Franklin Street. I'm coming before you tonight. At the last meeting, I had mentioned about a couple of things I thought should be added to the ordinance concerning the marijuana operation within the village of Holly. I'd like to have you, the council consider the 4 items that I would like to see added to the amendment. Of those 4 items, the first one would be no village employee shall own or work for any business involved in recreational or medical marijuana business within the village of Holly. 2, all employees working for the village of Holly must disclose any relative who owns or operates a recreational or medical marijuana operation within the village. 3, all elected officials of the village will be excluded from these requirements, but must disclose to the community if they are or relatives own or operate a recreation or medical marijuana operation within the village. 4, any resident appointed to a village board or commission must disclose any involvement in recreational or medical marijuana operations in the village. I would like to see this considered in front of the council within the next couple of months, because time is kind of the essence, because you will be considering license coming up forward. I think it's a good time for it also because you're also involved in contract negotiations, so this would obviously be something that would have to be considered by the different unions on that. When I'm looking at this, it's not a matter of trying to stop what's already going to be coming. I think this is just good government, because what it does is it makes everything transparent. And the fact is, this would not stop anybody from being involved in the business outside the village. And also, we must have a perception of people coming in, if they're going to do business here, that it's fair play, that they don't have somebody sitting there that's involved with the business who also might have something to say about how their business is regulated. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say that would happen, but perception, because you're not going to be talking about everybody that knows the whole situation about Holly when you're coming to, new business coming into town. A couple of people have mentioned about excluding elected officials. Well, that just comes from practicality, is that it's a legal business, and if someone runs for an office and they run a legal business, that's, you can't stop them from running. So that, when I first saw that, when I wrote that, I didn't think of that. When people, kind of question why wouldn't you have elected officials? But you can't put that requirement on an elected official if it's a legitimate business. Other government agencies do put limitations on their employees for different reasons, because they're overseeing operations of things. It's something that I think needs to be added before you start issuing license on that, because once you start doing that, and say someone was involved with it, well, you can't go back and say, well, you can't do it now. So I think this is something that I would hope you guys would take up in the next couple of meetings, if not in April, May. Thank you very much. And I have some copies on the table here for anybody to take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Any other offerings for public comment this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am State Senator Lana Tice. I represent the 22nd District, and I wanted to come here and say hello, introduce myself. The 22nd District will extend to here after the next election process, so I wanted to make sure that I was aware of what are the issues in the community, and wanted to make myself available so that you can reach out to me if you need to. I do not represent you right now. Senator Ruth Johnson does, but I'm very interested in knowing what's going on in the community. By way of reference for who I am, my degree's in biology and chemistry. I currently Chair Insurance and Banking. I chair Education and Career Readiness. I'm Vice Chair on Regulatory Reform and Oversight, and serve on a series of other committees as well. And I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding the community that I will hopefully be representing in the future, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on in the agenda to old business. Item number 1 under old business, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2022-003, authorizing the scoring key for evaluating recreational marijuana establishment license applications. Mr. Walker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Council. So as you'll recall, this actually was scheduled at the last meeting, and we requested as staff to have this postponed until this meeting so that we could do some further evaluation on the scoring tool, as well as get some additional consultation from Attorney Gildner and some other experts in the field. Just by way of introduction for those who were not at this meeting, discussion regarding the licensing and regulation of recreational marijuana establishments within the village of Holly actually began in the late spring of 2021. At the council meeting of February 8th, after the culmination of 4 public meetings with the Charter and Ordinance Committee, as well as other discussions that took place in open council meetings, Charter and Ordinance tendered a proposed ordinance to this council, and the full body did approve that ordinance number 468 by a majority vote. And so that's what brings us back to the table today with the items, 2 items actually, that were postponed from the last meeting. So you have the proposed scoring key in front of you. We actually provided the old scoring key that initially was presented to you, and along with the new key that we are recommending for you. And you'll see when you look at the old and the new, we did strikeout on that so that you can see which sentences or words were either eliminated or modified, and then there are, of course, some that are added. So really the key in itself, the scoring key, still we propose that it would be used as an evaluation tool. A little differently, though, than what we originally envisioned it to be. Originally, we envisioned that the scoring key would be, for lack of a better term, the end of all ends. That would be the tool that would help council in solely selecting who the successful applicants for these marijuana licenses were. And so now, after, as I said, more evaluation and with counseling from both Mr. Gildner and some other experts in the field, we feel that this key should be used. We feel that it should be used, however, by the initial screening committee. And we have talked before about, under state statute, it actually is the clerk's responsibility to present applicants to the council. And so the clerk, Ms. Bigger, has established a scoring, well, not scoring committee, strike that, a committee that will help her evaluate these initial applications just to make sure that they meet the initial requirements. And so this committee would be comprised of course, Ms. Bigger, Police Chief Narsh, and Police Chief McGee, and of course,
Fire Chief.
In your dreams, Chief McGee. I say that as a former policeman, for those of you that don't know. Fire Chief McGee, and of course we have the added benefit of Fire Chief's outstanding credentials as a building official. You know, he'll be able to provide that knowledge as he serves on that committee. So the way that we envision this scoring key being used is for this committee, chaired by the clerk, to evaluate any and all applications that are submitted, make sure that they meet the minimum requirements as far as attachments that are supposed to be submitted, and then from the information that is submitted along with the scoring key to make sure that they reach at least a minimum score of 70%. And then if that minimum score of 70% is reached, then all of those applications will be then forwarded to the council for council's evaluation, and that's pursuant to the ordinance. And so ordinance 468, section 158.13 actually lists 11 criteria that council should use when evaluating applications for the consideration of issuance of marijuana license. And so you'll have the benefit of the information that's submitted along with the scoring key, because we think that that will be helpful in your overall evaluation of the applicants to see if they hit all 11 of the considerations that are listed, or at least enough that council determines that there are qualified applicants, and really determine what applicant or applicants are best for the Holly community. Every community is unique. And so we think that this scoring key will be beneficial to you in this way, but we do not recommend that it be used as the sole instrument to make your selection. And so what I'm asking for tonight, and certainly you can make any modifications that you'd like, but we feel that this scoring tool is ready. We ask for your approval of the scoring key, and that your approval for the use of the scoring key as a screening tool used by the clerk and committee.
Any questions of council or comments at this time?
Yes. Mr. Walker, would you mind running through very quickly the changes that were made on the key itself and just explaining briefly the rationale for those?
Okay, there are a lot. If
Well-
you, no, for sure. I mean, I don't have any problem with doing that.
7, yeah.
If you'll start right at the very top.
So I was just looking at the backside of the
You want just the number portion?
yeah.
Okay, certainly.
Unless you wanted to do more.
No. You know me, I'm kind of shy around the microphone.
Ryan never asked him to do that.
Well, since he is going to do that, I would like you to at least touch on the items that were added in the initial requirements. I think those might be important to highlight too.
Okay, so on.
Is there a copy of this available?
There are copies. It was on the website, and it is included in the packet. Yeah, so you can download as many copies of it as you would like. So under the requirements on page 1, the third line down, just to be consistent with the ordinance and the rest of the document, we struck the word cannabis and used the word marijuana just for consistency. We added as an absolute requirement that each application have 10 copies of each application, which would include all submissions. Now, we look for these applications, from what I'm told, to be anywhere from 300 to 600 pages long. And so we did not feel that it was the burden of the clerk and her staff in order to make these copies. If we end up with 20 applications at 500 pages apiece, so we think that that is a responsibility of the applicant. Additionally, we added that we are requiring 1 electronic copy of the entire application packet. And then we wanted to clarify, the last edition, we wanted to clarify that there is a $5,000 non-refundable license fee as established by council, and that was approved by council at previous meeting. And then under the...
Can I ask you a question on that one quickly?
Of course.
You have license fee. Is it application fee or license fee?
No, it is application fee.
So that should be changed to application.
Okay, very well. And then we just wanted to reiterate, if this is what council goes with as a staff's recommendation, any applicants that receive a score of 70% shall be forwarded to the village council to be considered with other evaluation criteria as specified in the Village of Holly Ordinance number 468, and that's section 158.13 in the issuance of any marijuana license. Now, if you flip over to the scoring criteria. So we have removed, and you see that through the strikeouts, the words caregiver, provisioning grower, etc. in Michigan, and then also care grower, provisioning grower, etc., all in that same box. And so the intent is for this tool to be used not just this year, but every year going forward. And so we realize that not everybody is going to already have a license in the Village of Holly on this first go-around, but certainly we anticipate that may be the case in the future. And so that's why this was modified to read, at least one managing stakeholder demonstrates at least 1 year of experience operating a licensed marijuana business in the Village of Holly. At least one managing stakeholder demonstrates at least 1 year of experience operating a licensed marijuana business in another legal jurisdiction. So that would mean that in this first go-around, a person could receive additional score if they are already a license holder in another jurisdiction, in another municipality. They would not be able to receive the maximum score because at least in this first go-around, they would not already have a license in the Village of Holly. Now, that could change next year if there are additional licenses that are issued, and we anticipate that there will be. As Mr. Love said, I mean, their council approved in totality 22 licenses of various degrees, you know, but we certainly do not anticipate, in fact, we have been told by experts in the field that there are not going to be 22 licenses even applied for in the Village of Holly in the near future, and maybe not at all. So the possibility is there by ordinance, but doesn't mean that it's going to occur. But next year, for example, if somebody applies for, if they receive a license during this go-around in one of the disciplines, and then next year, council opens up an application period again, that maybe one of the people who received a license this year, they would receive additional credit then, or at least consideration, or the information would be available for council. If you skip down then to the fourth box where it talks about proposed development, demonstrates and provides physical improvements to the area around the property or other contiguous to the property above zoning standards. We removed that word, that, or two words that said at 10%, because we didn't want to get any, or we didn't want council or the committee to be in a position of having to justify, was it 8%? Was it 9%? Was it 10%? We feel that the information is important, but just to know that there was an improvement above the zoning standards, we think that that's important. So we're trying to take the nitpicky items out of there. In the fifth box, it starts out, the old one said the extent of, in addition to. Our wordsmith thought it was too wordy. So we eliminated the extent of, in addition to, or, and just started the sentence with the word extra security. Measures taken above the minimum standards required under state law. And then if you drop down to the last point in that same box, it previously stated monitored fire and security alarm system, you receive subscore of 3. We removed security system from that because security system is actually referenced in another box. And so that just applies to monitored fire.
Are you sure?
Oh, no, other way around.
It's the other way around.
Other way around.
Man.
Thank you, Richard. Yep, so we added
Very nice
security.
of you to ask the question.
Yeah, no, I did, I appreciate it, because we wanted the monitored part for fire and security. And then the last change on this sheet is all the way down, 1, 2,
You're the bottom.
12, on the 12th box down on the third line. We removed the phraseology "and morals and good order." Again, because, you know, that's kind of a subjective characteristic that somebody's going to be judged on and perhaps questioned, and we really don't think that it's needed. So that paragraph would then read, "The planned signage for the location is consistent in design and location with applicable zoning and other businesses, and does not include images or language that is detrimental to the health and safety of the Holly community." And so we did not feel that those other words were appropriate. Other than that, there are no changes. So this, the clean copy that you have, which has graph across the front, with the exception of the correction that Mr. Kinnaman suggested we would submit for your approval.
I think it's much better presented, more easy to read, and I think more easy to work with, too.
Mr. President, I'd like to field the thoughts of my fellow council members on a point. And this is connected to the point that Mr. Feeney raised earlier. The 1, 2, 3, the fourth box from the bottom on that scoring key, application has disclosed 100% of owners and stakeholders, including those with less than 10% stake, and that's assigned a point value of only 4 points. I wonder if some of the concerns that Mr. Feeney raised, which I think are pretty legitimate, you know, we want to be open, we want to be transparent, we want to know who exactly is coming into our community with these businesses and who's benefiting. I wonder if some of those concerns, certainly not all, but maybe some of them, can be addressed by bumping that up on the list and assigning it a higher point value, whatever that point value might be. And maybe we can discuss that a little bit.
Thoughts in response to,
I agree with Ryan on this, and I would propose that we do in fact move it up on the sheet.
I think if they're required to disclose 100%, it's said and done.
I agree.
Regardless of the point value.
Exactly.
You're gonna have.
well, but it's, I don't think they have to disclose
Correct.
100%.
It says 100%.
Yeah, application.
Well,
has
this
to
is,
close.
this is only
Right.
to gain those 4 points.
Yeah, that's to gain the
Exactly.
4 points. So if you want to,
So
wanna
if
make
they
it
don't
more
want the
important, you
4
wanna
points, they
increase-
don't have to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
See, because, yeah, it's a difference between what's on the front of the page, which are the requirements, that's, they must have
Right.
in order to even be considered for being granted a license by the village. Everything on the back, it's, you know, it's how badly they want it, you know?
So what if that item was moved to the front of the page?
Yeah,
What's your thoughts?
that would certainly,
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
I mean, that would certainly knock out that concern.
can we compel anyone who's making an application for anything to give 100% of their ownership interests?
I don't think you can compel it, but it, to the extent it's assigned a point value, perhaps. But as I was listening to those comments, I was thinking about, well, do you do that with fast food? Do you do that with any other business that comes into town? You require that they disclose their ownership or, have those things in place. So I think if you're going to do it, the discussion has to be why? Why now? why this particular business?
Don't they require it on liquor stores?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
I always thought they did.
No.
I don't think so.
So
No,
perhaps-
there's a lot of LLCs and corporations that
Yeah.
are licensed, and that's lawfully doing business that way too. But if you want to, I like the idea of, if you want to have more emphasis regarding disclosure of that information, then the point schedule is an opportunity for it. Because that's the applicant's choice, whether to garner
Bless
those
you.
points or not. But I'm uncomfortable telling people, we got to know who owns you beyond what the license is held in, what name the license is held
You're
in.
asking for board of directors. I mean,
Yeah.
Most
Right.
people are not going to disclose that.
Well, some of us are, but.
I would.
We know.
So,
And
What
so,
would you recommend as a reasonable point value?
would fellow council members find 12 to be reasonable? Because I don't think you'd have to alter any other point values for any other category. I mean, 70% is 70%.
Right.
No matter what raw number you're talking about. Does that sound reasonable?
oh, I'm going to give you a cagey lawyer's answer. It doesn't sound unreasonable.
That makes it worth 10%
It-
of
it-
their 70%, which I
10% of
sounds a little
70%.
steep.
8?
8.
I could go for 8.
I could
Go for 8?
I could.
Okay.
I'll compromise at 8.
It's doubled, we've doubled it, so.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Elaine, 8.
But honestly,
Do we have can we give our direction, well, we're going to have a motion ultimately, but
Mhm.
can we give some direction to our, are you comfortable with that direction in terms of it being 8?
Yes, that's fine. We can just amend that section, and so if your motion were to just state approval of the document as amended, then that will be sufficient.
And I suppose just to be, make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's, we would also include in that motion the change.
application.
The change from license to application under requirements, as Mr. Kinnaman proposed.
So then I'll make the motion that we
Well,
approve.
Have-
Oh, yeah, we've got to do public comment. Go ahead.
We've had our, are there any more comments? I'm ready for a motion too, but any further comments before we open up the public comment? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Joseph Aiello, and the scoring criteria here seems very familiar. It was actually extracted out of another city. That city was the city of Berkeley. The scoring criteria here all looks good on the face value, but when you dive in to a 1,000-page applicant, you'll have multiples. Most people don't know how to decipher the reality between whether they get a pass-fail or not. City of Berkeley had a 2-year spill into legal battles because people couldn't identify how to justify whether people got certain points. I'll give you one example here about the buildings being, I think it's 14, the non-conforming use. It became a fight between, the city interpreted it as the building itself impacted the measurements between boundaries as non-conforming. But if you look at building codes are non-conforming in every manner. Bathrooms, ADA, HVAC, pressurizations, rear door entries. So it became a fight. Their 2 wins turned into 5. And the legal battle still isn't over. I would just hope and suggest that you go back and re-review scoring in this methodology, because also there's been a couple law judges that have unconstitutionalized it, so, based on murder. Thank you very much.
Did we get who he was?
Oh, he did give us his name when he checked, yeah.
Yeah.
You gave your name and address, but could you do it again, please?
Sure, Joseph I.L., 32411 Mound Road, Warren, Michigan.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, Mr. Love.
Well, I'm sure you've all read this over and know exactly what it means, but you don't, because it's more complex than that. It's just a cesspool that you're going to dive into, and we're going to see how it comes out. And there's only one group that's responsible for this, and they're not going to be able to figure this out. You can't figure it out because it's so complex. They write books about this stuff, and you don't even have a grasp of what's happening when you open this trap door. It's going to be a mess, and we'll be able to look back and say, gee, I didn't know we did miss that. Well, we're going to see the boat, and it's unfortunate that you are glossing this over in the lifetime you put into researching this, because it's not adequate for what's going to happen. There's no depth to anybody that's going to be able to inspect these things and find the kind of things that are going on inside these establishments. And I've read the books, and the books go way beyond what's even mentioned here. And it's going to be a storm that's going to come onto a community that can't handle the challenge, unable to handle it. What's going to happen to the wastewater? What's going to happen about the debris? What's going to happen about the odors? Who's going to write the ordinances? Who's going to enforce those? Who has the depth to do this? You better double the police and fire millage if you want to do an adequate job of protecting this community, because that's not happening, period.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Yes, Joanna? Joanna?
Yep.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's rude calling somebody by the wrong name.
I thought you called me Joanna, but that's all right. Joanna Barnes, 3393 Harrington Drive. This is such a complex topic. As a patient, as somebody who suffers from a couple of different medical conditions, I appreciate what the village is doing to try and bring a facility, a method to our town for me to be able to actually get my medication here. To be able to actually enjoy living in my town and not have to drive to Flint or Ann Arbor just to be able to get the same thing that somebody else can go to CVS or to Rite Aid to get. Because for me, it is medication. For the people who enjoy it for recreational purposes, well, I bet we could list off a couple of dozen stores that seem to have no problem being able to regulate themselves. Certainly, there will be bumps over time, but the catastrophizing and doomsdaying does not help anybody in being able to bring Holly into progression. And I appreciate the council's measured steps. I understand that there will be bumps in the road, I think we all do. But I think to say that we should stop this because of all of the crime and so forth that will come to Holly in such negative waves that will overwhelm our community. I think maybe people like Mr. Love have not taken a lot of time in actual communities who have made successes of ventures like this, because there are a lot of them. I've been to a few of them, and let me tell you, they're taking advantage of this. Holly's a little bit behind the ball, and it's nice to see them picking it up. It's nice to see the council doing what they can to try and take advantage of such a lucrative market, and to also take it into account how people like me can be affected. It's not just about getting high. It's about being a patient, trying to eat, trying to not be in pain, just trying to survive and get through the day. So sometimes, Mr. Love, you got to think about more than just what you're scared of.
You're right, I'm pretty dumb.
Well, that would be your
Thank-
statement, sir, not mine.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none that hasn't already presented itself, What, do you have a motion, Mr. Kinnaman?
Yes, I'll make them.
say one sentence?
No. Mr. Kinnaman, you have a motion?
Thank you.
I would make the motion that we adopt resolution, I gotta find the number on this one again. 2022003, authorizing the scoring key as amended this evening to be used for evaluation of applications for marijuana establishments within the Village of Holly.
I'll second it.
There's motion and support. Any further discussion? We're clear on what the amendments are? Okay. I think I am too.
Who supported that?
I did.
Rick.
Rick, okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. Item 2, under old business, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2022-005, approving a community benefit list associated with recreational marijuana establishments. Mr. Walker.
Yes, thank you. So this involves Resolution 2022-005. It is a community benefits list, just as President McKinney stated. It is part of the scoring key that you just approved. If you turn to the very last page, there are 5 recommendations from staff. Council can certainly, there are 4 recommendations by staff. Council can certainly add a 5th or more if you would like.
We have the recommendation from staff, and we have our material that was presented with it. What's the pleasure of council? Are there questions or are there comments?
I think number one priority is infrastructure.
I would agree with that.
This is what we got.
No, I would agree with Mr. Perkins on that. You know, sitting here over the course of, over a year now and listening to the kinds of concerns that our residents bring to us, sidewalks, check. Roads, check. Parks, check. I haven't heard anyone come to us in council meeting and say, what we really need as a municipality to be funneling more money to is the depot project. I don't want to, not wanting to denigrate the depot project in any way. That's a precious part of our history. I just don't know as it should necessarily be number 1 on the list. I would say more like number 4.
I doubt if they're ordered by any specific,
No.
No, there's no,
they're just items.
they're just
Oh.
items.
Yeah, just the way it's presented, it's
Yeah.
that way. And
Yeah,
to me,
yeah.
I agree. I would move
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
just because of.
we'll just clarify that there's no order.
Okay,
There is no order.
okay.
So we'll remove the numbers.
Bullet points.
We're not going to put A, B, C, D either.
No.
So, if we can,
Just a dash.
if we can agree on that.
I don't know if an amendment is necessary. there.
Yeah, I don't think an amendment's necessary. Thank you for the clarification, though, Mr.
Yeah.
Walker.
Yeah.
I agree with the list.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with the list.
No.
Infrastructure.
Never mind.
I know, yeah.
I agree with the list, too. Any further comments? Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and support regarding Resolution 2022-005, authorizing the community benefits list without amplification or highlighting or any other distinguishing characteristic.
As presented.
Roll call vote, please.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. On to new business. Item number 1 under new business, consideration of the approval of council action request to sign a contract with State Contracting, Inc. Mr. Walker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Council. So in previous meetings, we have discussed the future of electric vehicles in our, not just the community, but in the nation and in fact worldwide. But we know that they are coming, whether we are in support of them or not. And so from staff's perspective, we feel it's better to be a little proactive. And in fact, in this particular instance, representatives from State Electric Company, which is on Dixie Highway, they, shameless plug for Mr. Kinnaman, their chamber member, approached staff and talked about the possibility of installation of EV, electric vehicle charging stations, in the village. And so we have with us tonight the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Executive Officer with us, and so they are prepared to give a presentation. I said it that way because I know I'm going to butcher Byron's name. So I'll let Byron and Dwayne introduce themselves and then give a presentation first on what EV charging stations are, the necessity, and then you have, as part of your packet, a contract to consider. That contract has already been reviewed by Mr. Gilmer.
Yeah, unless you want to show it, unless you want to throw it on camera, I don't know.
Maybe, Dwayne, can you just sit here and rotate this around?
That's got to be the Chief Operating Officer there.
A little light-minded here, and this is going to be easier than the other discussions.
So I actually thought when they carried it in, it was a new investigation tool to be used by the police department when looking for confessions. But
Careful,
not
careful.
Another one of those goals.
So my name's Dwayne Lovestall. I'm the owner of State Electric. Byron's our Chief Financial Officer. Destination point, I feel, I like Holly. And this is coming. This is the future of our transportation. This is technology. And I'm sure we're all aware, reading the news, watching the news. This is going to be a necessity. Now, my feeling is this would be a nice component to add to the village, with some benefits of drawing a customer base, so on and so forth. Add something more to
Yeah,
it?
Byron Munoz, State Electric Company. And kind of how this all came to take place, where we started reaching out to the village, is, we're a authorized reseller for NLX juice box chargers in North America. We're the largest reseller for them in North America in 2021. And we're, like Dwayne said, we're deeply entrenched in this. Us bringing this to Holly wasn't because we want to own chargers in Holly. It's because it's in our backyard, and we want to make sure that when people talk about Holly, State Electric Company's been very involved in putting them in here. These are small level 2 entry-level chargers. This isn't a DC fast charger. As it continues to keep growing, and Dwayne and I, like he said, we've been involved in this with chargers for the last couple of years, and it's growing so fast and the different information and technology that each week we learn something new in the area, and it's changing. So this will just be the start of what's happening. I think, whatever, like Dwayne said, whatever, we all have different agreements on it, whether how far it's going to drive penetration into the vehicle segment by 2030. There's all kinds of different reports about it. I personally am not a huge EV vehicle fan, but at the same time, we'll probably buy one this week, because I just see what's going on, and I just know that we need to be on the forefront of all this. So we started talking with the Village of Holly. We came up with this presentation, which I believe all you have in front of you. And so if we can just kind of go through it and maybe talk a little bit about the contract, and if you guys have any questions. And we brought this demo unit in here. This isn't actually a demo unit, it's a real live unit, but we brought it in so anybody wants to take a look at it, feel it. They're very heavy duty, great units. They're fully supported by the manufacturer, O&M warranties. It's our commitment. Number one, again, being in our backyard, they're going to be working all the time. Somebody pulls the cord off it on a car, gets cut off and gets salvaged, gets backed into it with a car, gets hit by a lawnmower, whatever the situation is, we're going to have this thing back up and operating again, because it reflects us along with Holly. And these are all monitored remotely, so even before you would hear that the charger doesn't work over there on Broad Street, we would know it, and NLX would be, they would know it first, and they'd tell us, hey, number 2 unit on Broad Street's not working. So We talked a little bit about who we are. You know, we're an electrical contractor, and we do a large percentage of residential installs in Lower Michigan. We service the whole state. We're in Traverse City, Battle Creek, Grand Rapids, Alpena, and Southeast Michigan daily. And we're all over the place. So when we have a problem, we have a service problem, we just dispatch one of our techs to swing by and take a look at that unit. These little units right here, when we have a problem with them, these are days, they call them rip and replaces. We just take the unit out, put a new one on, and keep moving along. It doesn't even pay to slow up and try to fix it. Then we bring them back, send them back to the manufacturer, and they rehab them. But on the commercial side of it, again, we're all over the state of Michigan and in the UP. We're putting chargers right now into Copper Harbor up at the North Mariner Resort. We're doing 14 or 15 sites with DC level chargers across the United States in partnership with Eagle and the state of Michigan. They've identified different areas all across the state of Michigan where they would like companies to put DC chargers. So right now we have plans to put in 15 more sites in the UP in addition to up in Copper Harbor. We're going to do a couple more in Lower Michigan, which we will own, just like we will in the same situation here. We're planning on putting them in St. Ignace, Sault Ste. Marie. But at the same time, looking at some of these pictures, we're doing one in Cadillac and Novi right now. It's going to be the finest, arguably the finest EV charger presentation in the United States. There'll be no dealership in the United States that's getting what Cadillac and Novi is getting. Cadillac and Novi is the #1 volume dealership in the United States, and their EV presentation, their charger presentation, is going to reflect what they are over in Novi. So, and we're the general contractor on it. We're doing all the work. We're self-perform on it, and we're doing this in a lot of different areas in the commercial segment, multi-unit apartment buildings, office buildings, individually businesses. Randy Wise. We're probably on the ground right now, 8 dealerships right now in Southeast Michigan. And we're going to continue to keep doing more and more and more. We're in talks with Wayne State, Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech is talking anywhere from 24 chargers in phase 1 to phase 2 will be like 300 chargers. Phase 3 will be like 1,200 chargers. Phase 2 will have DC chargers. So the penetration that businesses and communities are driving into this is, I mean, it's happening and all around us. We can say that it's not happening or this or that, but the business world is really behind this, and it's going to happen. There's a lot of communities in different areas, like my brothers live out in Washington State and they're in Clark County. All new building plans and renovations require 25% density for EV charger readiness. For if you have a 100-space parking lot in your new build, they have to have 25 spaces set up with EV readiness for chargers. 25%. We talked to Wayne State, and they're talking of a density of 50% into their student and staff parking. So if we're talking a 50% drive into EV penetration by 2030, then obviously all the parking spaces in the United States are going to need to support that also. But the bulk of the charging is still going to be done in residential homes. So that's a little bit about us. There's pictures there. The product, you know, we talked a little bit about level 2 and level 3. This is a level 2 charger, and Dwayne's a master electrician, so he can speak to a little bit more about what level 2 and level 3 is, power requirements. And
so real quick, this is you got really 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3. When you hear people talk about level 1, discard this. It's an extension cord. Really, and it is.
Microphone.
Oh yeah,
you can take it right out of there if you're more comfortable rather than bend over.
Yeah.
You just pull straight up.
Yeah, like that. Level 1 is an extension cord. Can you hear me okay? Okay. A little closer. Screw that. Level 1's an extension cord. How about now?
Yep.
Okay. Level 2, and level 1 will give you maybe, literally, for every hour that you charge, 3 miles. So think about that, driving a car. So that's irrelevant, right? This is a level 2. Various models of level 2s, 32s, 40s, 48. We talk about amperage. Is this a 48? 40?
we're putting 40s in here.
40s, okay. Roughly 30 miles for every hour. of charge. I mean, it all depends on the battery of the car. This technology that's coming, you got some cars that have a small 60 kW batteries. You have some that have much larger. General Motors is coming out with an Ultium battery technology. Will be able to have a lot more capability. Think of it like a fuel tank. So this is 240 volt single phase. These are much more affordable. Going from here to a DC fast charger, you'll hear the level 3, it would be a DCFC, that means direct current fast charge. What a DCFC does is it will bypass a built-in transformer that's in the vehicle. So you buy a brand new Chevrolet Bolt, it actually has a transformer plugged into it, so if you take this cord off, you plug it in, it goes through the transformer and charges the battery to give it the DC voltage the battery needs. If you use a DCFC, which is direct current fast charge, you plug it in, bypasses that transformer because that's the bottleneck, and you can direct charge right into the battery at a much faster rate. Again, those are more for someone that's passing through, needs the, you maybe want to top something, you're completely depleted, you need to, I'll give you an example, go to the St. Ignace, go to Mackinac Island, you're going through the UP, got to top off, get a full tank. These are nice for areas like this. On Broad Street, which we're proposing, well, someone stops, they're there for a couple hours, they're shopping, top off their car, move their car, next person takes place. There's a little bit uncharted waters, right? We're not 100% sure what this is going to look like in the future, but I know one thing is it's coming fast, and as we're all aware of what the fuel prices and whatever, just ironically what's going on lately. There's more and more push for this. I always thought it would be a great thing to put, locally here, and we operate here. So, I don't have much more to ask me questions.
We're actually putting them in our office, our new office at 15045 Dixie Highway. We're going to put a 175 kW DC fast charger in the parking lot. Hopefully it'll be up by June 1st. And that's a charger that'll charge a car from empty to 80% full in 17 minutes. So we're also going to put in what's called a pedestal there, 2 of these on a commercial pedestal with a cord management system. And then we're going to put a couple of these in this one actually is going to go in our parking lot also. So what we proposed, and as we started getting involved in this, we kind of reached out to all our different partners around the United States, NLX and Tritium, the maker of DC chargers. We talked to a couple of large companies that own different sites that they'll put the chargers in at no cost to the property owner, and they'll sign a lease with the property owner, subleasing that area from them. And we asked them, what type of different contracts do you use? And so we took their contracts and we gave them to our attorney and told them to go through them all, make sure they protect us, make sure they protect the end user, and make sure it's applicable to Michigan law. So that's where we came up with the contract that you see further in the packet there. So we propose to put in 2 of these units at Broad Street and Jupiter, right next to the park there. Junction and South Broad Street. And you can see the pictures there. That's just what they'll exactly look like. When we get them done, we'll put up some stanchions there. We'll have some signage that says EV charging parking only. We'll put some different color striping in that area. And there's, like when Dwayne talks about, there's a lot of different things that are unknown. In different areas and dense urban footprint areas, now if you're at a charging station and you're not charging, they immediately tow your car. And so I think over a period of time, I think that's going to evolve across the country, but I think people are also going to be respectful as it becomes more mainstream that we need to leave these spaces open for charging your car. If you actually pull up to that charger and you plug in and you plug into a DC fast charger and a half hour later your car is full and it shuts off, you actually go into an idle mode where you're paying that charging company being in an idle mode. You're not paying, so even though you're sitting there, you're still paying for it. And I just share some of this. Yeah, I just share some of this information because there's a lot of different questions on it.
You also, something else a lot of these, you'll have an app. Your vehicle will have an app. You can have an app on your phone. Sorry, I got something in my eye. That will highlight all these hot spots. So you'll be on a heat map, for lack of better words, that says there's a couple chargers here in Holly, Michigan. If I'm going from point A to point B or point C through B, and I have to stop and get a charge, and I make an appointment here, which you can do on the app, and I reserve a time slot of hypothetically 1 o'clock, and I don't show up, you're rated by this. So people should be cognizant as this transportation evolution changes, that you don't want to do that kind of thing because you're rated on it, and the next time you have to make an appointment to get a charge, if you're planning your route, you might not get the spot, so there's some detractors to it if you're not a good steward of the product.
And the EV charger vehicles drivers, they know this stuff. They're educated on it. They know if they're leaving Detroit and they got whatever it is from Detroit to Holly and they're going to Alpena and they put it in their GPS on their screen, it'll tell them you need to stop at Holly on South Broad Street and you're going to be there at 1:10 p.m. and you can make an appointment or you don't have to. It tells them where to stop, how long they're going to be charging. So the bigger, and when you're getting commuter traffic, the larger charger you have, the better you're going to be. Unless you're in front of a restaurant and your sit time is 90 minutes, then 50 kW would be sufficient for that. If it's along a park on a back street, introducing it to community, I think a level 2 is a good place to start.
What's the safety record, Ben, on these?
I actually can't answer that 100%. I can look into that. As far as safety record,
Well, if someone comes coming along the road and they don't see it or whatever, they run right into it, run it down.
Well, we put bollards in front, so yes, there's, I can't tell you how many people run into one.
Yeah. Also, back in my day, when I was pumping gas, I can't tell you the number of times that someone drove off with the thing in there.
Yeah.
What would happen if that happened?
Well, all of them have GFIs on them, so as soon as
they shut right off?
Shuts right off.
Okay.
Also, I just want to make one note of one thing. This does not become live until it's plugged into the vehicle. So you can't lick this, you can't touch this and get electrocuted, right? So the kid coming through the neighborhood on his bike goes like this. You can't get it's a built-in safety feature. It's all controlled inside this.
Good.
This has to be installed into the vehicle in order for it to communicate to this, and then it can engage. It can be connected.
Okay.
Right.
And also communicating with the app too. I mean, even if you had a plug in there with open wires on it, if you're not signed into that app, you're not going to be able to get power through that cord.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, true. You can't.
You had mentioned 2030. Is it sustainable development? You had said, by 2030.
Did you say that?
I said 2030.
Is that the UN Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development?
There's a lot of people that don't think it's sustainable and it's not practical. I personally think it is. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, but I've seen so much innovation and technology advances that, when we started doing this in homes and stuff 2 years ago, you would have thought you couldn't even put these into houses. And 6 months later, we didn't even slow up on houses anymore. In the beginning, we used to think we had to do service panel upgrades, and the technology is advancing so fast. Dwayne and I we're on a meeting today, and we're going to be part of a rollout for 80 amp chargers for the United States. And the company we're partnering with, they're huge national companies. There's not going to be any problem putting 80 amp chargers in people's homes. Pretty neat stuff. If we'd have heard this 2 years ago, we would have never believed it. So I personally, I'm a huge proponent. And what's going on in the world right now, on our way over here, Dwayne called a dealership and told them we need 2 Mustang Mach-E's because we need EV vehicles to try to offset some of this rising costs.
From our local Holly's app.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And 2 e-transits, but we're waiting on those. Can't seem to get them.
As usage rises, is there built-in upgrade? If we're achieving maximum usage, is there room in here for us to expand? Is what I'm asking.
Not in this contract. We would have to do an addendum to the contract. But like, it's all about the location of where this was. If these two are at maximum usage, I would say we put 4 more right down the road from them.
Okay, that's what I'm
You know,
asking.
this level is what I think that you really need along here. You don't need DC fast chargers, and maybe 6 months down the road, we say you do need them, and you guys, we all agree. But there might be different locations in the village where they'd be best suited. Anything that, if this customer's coming in for 90 minutes, and they're going shopping, or we're going in any of these spots, they're kind of a destination customer. But a commuter customer, they have to have something, what are they gonna do for 20 or 30 minutes?
Right.
And so that really a location, you really gotta look at their planning, you know, what are they gonna do for that 20, 30 minute sit rate?
With that being said, what you're getting at, you need to take into consideration what your use will be in the future to kind of future-proof for your electrical service. Obviously, I could put 20 of these on one circuit. However, if everybody plugs into it, you're only going to get the amount of fuel, I use like fuel, okay, for example, through a small wire to be able to feed 20 cars plugged in, right? It's best to have them on individual circuits. Well, you start doing that, and they're all being used, if you find that that's the case, and I highly believe that eventually it will be the case, but then we have to talk about a service upgrade. But that's something that we take care of, and I'm not looking for Holly to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions of our guests?
I don't know. This location ends up being where we hold a lot of events, and that section of road gets closed. So have we considered like an alternate spot that's easier to always be open?
Yeah, so we actually toured the village with representatives from State Electric, and we did look at several locations. That particular location, part of the appeal to it is the infrastructure for the power is there right now. Now, we only close that section of the road, 2 or 3, maybe 4 times maximum for the year, and so, we just think, we'll have to make some accommodation for that. And really, the spots where these are proposed, if you look at it, I mean, they really are behind the area where the stage is traditionally located, because it's those first 2 spots on the east side of Broad Street, right next to the dirt lot. And so, you know what, I mean, I think it's about as remote as you can get on Broad Street, but the street closures are very minimal, but really, it's the, one of the driving factors was that the infrastructure is there right now, and we're in the infancy stage of this. So we have probably a half a dozen other locations in mind for the future. If we move to the next phase, phase 2, these, or type 2, these destination location charging stations. We also have high-speed DC charging locations that we think would work well for people traveling down 75 or 23, where they could get off, come perhaps in the area of Ganshaw Park, just as an example, that might make a good place where somebody could go in, charge, get right back on the expressway and go. One of the other major attractions to this contract is it makes Madam Clerk very happy in that there's no cost to the village at all for this entire process, as well as there's a revenue generating component to it, where it will be a small revenue stream. It won't be huge at first, but it increases over time, and of course it will increase with volume.
Correct.
And I think even talking about that revenue stream, the revenue stream is 3 cents a kilowatt in revenue paid monthly off of electricity usage that we track through the Juice Box network software, and we would supply these reports monthly and submit it to Holly Village of Holly. But when you start thinking, you think 3 cents a kilowatt, well, what is that? And I'm a numbers guy, so I love this part of the presentation. But when you start looking at ROIs, and you start looking at, let's just say we use 60 kilowatts a day at 3 cents is $2. All of a sudden, it's $60 a month. And that's just off 2 chargers to start. If all of a sudden you have 20 of these, it multiplies, and the growth, and the faster that they can charge, you start getting into larger chargers. it just starts multiplying a lot quicker. So the infrastructure to put in a level 2 charger is substantially less. I think it's a good starting point. But I think down the road, you know, your phase 1, 2, 3, it's going to be bigger chargers and a larger revenue stream.
Got another question.
Sure.
Would we need an ordinance
Yeah,
for
that's right.
signage? If it's EV parking only, would that be something that we would need to draft an ordinance for?
No, I don't think you need an ordinance. I'm fairly certain you've got something in there already which would permit local signage
Okay.
to be installed. A traffic, there's a reference usually to traffic control signals or something like that. That's already built in.
Okay.
Buster, did you have a question?
No, that's the same one,
Okay.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Okay. Any further questions or comments for our guests?
Mr.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to wait till we finish our discussion here, and then I think Joe's next on the list, from what I can see here. Mr. Minister, do you have a question of the council or the guests?
The guests.
Okay.
First off, I don't know, the timing seems a little too precise for me. You know, I only got 20 minutes, and I'm coming from someplace, and if something happens, I can be in trouble with the machine and the company, right?
I'm not following you 100%.
All right, if it says I'm gonna be there at 1 o'clock,
So you're
something
talking
happens
about,
on the
that,
road.
you're talking about being on the heat map and making an appointment?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one question.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to understand what your question is.
What happens if I'm late, but I'm late for a legitimate reason?
Good question.
You have too many late legitimate reasons, you probably will have a low score and you won't be able to make appointments.
That's true. Can't go to the dentist late too many times without them telling you can't show up anymore.
Now, you can sit in their office for a long time.
You can stand in line too, behind the guy that wants to start charging, I'm thinking. Again, this is a little bit extra, there's a little bit, this is on the cost.
Okay. The thing I want to know is, you were just talking about the revenue for the village, which sounds like a tremendous amount of money. What does it cost a person to plug in?
For the amount of power?
Yeah, let's say I
So-
need to fill up.
Yeah, so right now, the average delivered cost for electricity, is this consumers here? Yeah.
Consumers.
Around 20 cents per kilowatt. All right. The general rule of thumb is about 40 cents for the so you charge 40 cents, about double. You can change that any way you want. I mean, right now, that's the industry standard.
So kind of speaking to that, if you got a Chevy Bolt that has got a 40 kW battery storage on it, and you charge it up at 40 cents a kilowatt power, it's $16 to fill it up, and you have about a 235-mile range. But they're all different. I mean, General Motors, and this isn't a General Motors commercial or anything, but I'm a guy that's high on this Ultium technology that Dwayne spoke about earlier. There's not a car in production besides the Hummer right now that can take more than 100 kW at a time. So, and there's not a battery storage with over 100 kW. So if you're paying 40 cents a kilowatt and you got a 90 kW battery, it's going to cost you $36 to fill it up. And the range is anywhere from, on Teslas and some of these other vehicles, from 300 to 400 miles for that 100 kW battery. General Motors, the new Cadillac Lyriq and the Hummer right now are going to take 194 kW at a time, and they have 200 kW batteries. So I mean, it's a massive advancement in technology in just a really short period of time. They say by the end of the year, the Hummer is going to be able to, it's going to be able to take 350 kW at a time. So we have chargers that can charge a Hummer in 8 minutes, from 0 to 80%. Or actually, at General Motors, the industry shuts off at 80% because of the heat and how fast it pumps it into the car. General Motors is taking it to 90%. Their technology is that far ahead. They pump it from 0 to 90% full in 8 minutes, and then it automatically shuts off the manufacturer set rates of 90%. It shuts off.
Mr., you have another comment or question?
I want one of these installed in my house. What's it gonna cost?
That's the million-dollar question.
That's a variable. I mean, I can give you the average
Give me the average.
between 1,500 and 2,000. They're similar, they look the same, but they're not commercial ones. You see this here, this is the tap to fit, the software is different.
Okay.
Kind of dumb, for lack of better words, you know.
At your house, you just pull in your garage, plug it in,
There you go.
click it, and you can set up all the apps. There's the different utilities have different programs for EV chargers in their homes. There's different rebates. On our website, stateelectriccompany.net, you can go on there. You can see all the different rebates that are available. And the same thing on a residential side, you still download a JuiceNet app to manage your residential charger in your garage. You can, if you get a reduced rate from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., you can set your charger to go on at 9:01 p.m. to 5:59 a.m. and you're going to get a reduced rate from your meter, from your utility.
Save money for that.
And right now, the industry average is 80% of all charging is going to be done in residential homes.
Yes?
I heard a part of a conversation this morning, and what I've heard and understood that the batteries are going to cost almost as much, if not more, than the auto itself to replace batteries.
Well, I don't know what the battery cost is on one of these vehicles for replacement, but the standard warranty on an EV battery across industry-wide is 10 years. So, and then there's talks about what happens to these batteries after their life cycle. And the battery that everybody's using right now, besides Ultium technology, the battery everybody's using is about 40% can't be recycled. And General Motors has their battery at 93%, and they say by the end of 2023 it'll be 100% recyclable. They'll bring it all back and they'll reutilize it all.
Yes, sir.
From the seats, okay?
That's fine.
So I did have, the arbitration agreement in the actual contract is missing. And I looked at the last month's as well, it was missing as well at the end. So as a consumer, I'm typically concerned about arbitration agreements, so I was just curious what it actually, I think there's 2 sentences missing from it. The other one was, I think Mr. Gilder did touch on the signage, but it's called icing, when you put your internal combustion engine in an EV charger. And I guess some people do enjoy doing that, so that would be an issue.
Right.
Or whatever it is. I think one instance I heard is they were having parking issues at a hotel, and where are people supposed to park? So if you have parking issues in downtown Holly and there's these 2 spots here, someone can go in there and someone then is going to have to enforce to remove them.
Name and address, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jim Koskala, 207 North Saga.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think that's a great point by Mr. Koskela about the enforcement of it, but really it's just like any other law or ordinance we have in books. They're only good if they are enforced. And so, I mean, that's part of the entire package, and we'll have to train ourselves in order to make sure that we keep our end of it up, to keep it signed correctly and to keep it enforced.
And there was a grammatical error in the contract, but I left my notes at home and I can't find it on the screen, so.
You can still communicate that to us.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the arbitration clause that Mr. Koskela talked about, I think that that's something if council still desire to move forward with tonight, it could be with the added condition that Mr. Gildner review the full clause and, determine that it's appropriate.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Is anyone uncomfortable with that?
No.
No.
All right.
Could I ask maybe, just generally, has Mr. Gildner reviewed this document for us? Okay.
I have.
Not saying you missed that couple of sentences, that's not my intent with that.
That appears to be a photocopy issue, which...
That's what it is.
We don't usually obliterate the last 2 sentences of a paragraph. Any further comments or questions, council? Any further questions? No?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes, Mr. Love.
I have 3 commercial properties in town. How much does it cost to put it in? How do I get paid? How does that work?
Well, the cost is, I mean, again, there's a variable here, what do you want? A level 2 or level 3, and if so, which side, what side do you want? Going from, we'd have to sit down and discuss this at length to see where they are.
That's a good idea.
You know.
Yeah.
Give me your card.
Yeah.
How do you get paid?
We'll cover that with
Yeah,
you.
there's a mechanism for it. It's all.
Because I'm not kidding you, we could talk 24 hours straight about all the different things going on in this area.
Well,
This space.
Presentation.
yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, if it's in order, I would like to make a motion.
Yes.
I move to approve the contract with State Contracting Incorporated for the installation of EV charging stations.
I'd like to second that motion.
Are you going to put subject to
Subject to Mr. Gilman.
the,
Subject to Mr. Gildner's review regarding an arbitration clause.
thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Finish your sentence.
Yeah.
There's a motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkin.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is item 2 under new business, consideration of council action request to approve dates for the fiscal year 22-23 budget workshops, including ARPA fund update. Mr. Walker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Council. So we're at that time of year again where we need to have some budget workshops so we can discuss with Council budget expenditures and revenue that we are projecting and will be requesting for fiscal year 22-23. And so we want to talk about that. We also want to talk about ARPA funds. That has been discussed many times in council. And so we wanted to tie those two together because I think it's been council's desire as well as the desire of residents or attendees at previous council meetings that there be some public input into how these ARPA funds are spent. So just by way of clarification, so we have known for quite some time that we are going to be receiving these ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act. And we knew what the initial amount was told to us that it would be, and that's just $643,607. However, information from the original announcement of these funds has varied, not only in what they could be used for, but when they would be received and the amount. We were told at one point that these funds would be reduced drastically because they were going to be used in other areas. In January of 22, we received written confirmation that in fact the original allocation of $643,607 was going to be the amount that we would receive. In February, in consultation with Plant Moran, who assists the village in many ways besides audit, financial planning and interpretation of laws and administrative procedures regarding funds such as these, that is correct, the information that we received in January, and that we could proceed in planning on use of those funds. And so this is what we propose to council, is that we have this public meeting or discussion about these ARPA funds and proposed uses or possible uses during a budget study workshop. In that way, it would still allow comment from the public as far as how they wanted it to be used or felt that it could best be used, or that they could just listen to discussion of council and that we do it during a budget study workshop. Now, on the back of this memo, you have just some suggestions by staff, and we wanted to give this to you prior to budget study workshop so that you could have more time to consider it. We didn't want to spring it on to you on that day, hey, this is how we think that it should be used. But you can see, we feel from working with the various departments of the village that an allocation in the area of $100,000 would be appropriate for parks. So we know that parks is a hot topic in the village, and we receive a lot of comment, not only from our own Parks Commission, but from residents about we would like our parks upgraded or added to. The next, we think the purchase of a new ambulance, and Chief McGee is not here, but if he would tell you, the newest ambulance that the fire department currently has is 7 years old. And so while we drive lots of cars that are personally owned for 7 years or longer, when you're dealing with emergency response equipment such as this, and with standards that change by medical control and in the medical profession, 7 years really is for your frontline ambulance. That's really about maximum. And truthfully, I'm hoping I never need one, but if I do, I want a new one to come for me. The next thing that we have on here is for the Department of Public Works, and it's a new street sweeper and a backhaul truck. That $150,000 is about half of the cost. Those vehicles are over $300,000, but really a very needed, necessary part of the Public Works function, not only for street sweeping, but when we have men and women down in those trenches and working on water main breaks, this is one tool that helps provide safety for them. And when we get to that budget study workshop, Director Clausen will talk about that. And then the next allocation, we have $100,000 for emergency police equipment as well as a new car. And as we talked with Chief Narsh, this meets the need of his department. But again, he'll talk about that more if we do have that budget study workshop. And that really leaves a balance of about $143,607. And there's lots of uses for that. We know in the future there's going to be a move required of the village offices at some point. We know that we have environmental remediation in a couple of other areas. Not that anything is in emergency state right now, but there are some responsible things that we think that we're going to have to address. And then, of course, we always have water and sewer infrastructure issues that we're trying to get ahead of. And really, the top two areas that we see this need in is College Street with stormwater work and sewer on North Street. So North Street has the oldest sewer type system in the village. And so we know that that needs to be upgraded sooner than later. Probably should have already been done. And of course, with the upgrade of that system, it will also necessitate the street being rebuilt and resurfaced. So those are just areas. We wanted to provide those. We don't need to discuss those tonight, unless you want to. You can do anything you want, but we don't need to. Really, I think the bigger question is how do you want to conduct budget workshops? We've done them two ways in the past. In prior years, we did them all on a Saturday, and we came and showed up at 9 o'clock in the morning. We provided a lunch, and we went through every single budget of the village. And if we did that, and council decided that you wanted to include ARPA funds as part of it, we would advertise the time to the community. We do anyways about budget workshops, but we would make sure that there was emphasis placed on, we're going to be discussing ARPA funds at 9 in the morning. Come and join us. Give us your opinion. We're interested in those. So that is one proposal. The second option would be to conduct them during the week at night meetings. And so, I mean, we think we'll need a minimum of 2 and maybe 3 if we break those down. Now, from my own experience and my own opinion is we get better work if we do them on one day, because we can continue on and evaluate the whole picture at one time, rather than possibly getting to that third meeting and then saying, what did we discuss 3 weeks ago? But again, the decision is totally yours. Staff is at your beck and call, whatever you prefer. So the only thing we're really asking for authorization for tonight is for you to choose a budget study session format.
Saturday sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say Saturday.
I have too much
Saturday.
going on at night.
One day.
Yeah.
My concern is with the 16th is the day before Easter.
Yes.
That's kind of a, huh?
It's the next day.
Are you going to be out of town?
What's that smirk for?
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think staff is available on the 23rd. I mean, the next week, we really don't want to push it a lot past that, because whatever decisions council makes as far as determining direction, we need time then to reformat our budgets and get them into form.
I play golf on
Well, and
Tuesday.
this has to be presented by the first meeting in June, doesn't it?
So we have to present the budget, during these processes. It has to be approved by the council in the June meeting, which we move to the end of the month. But it's still, it's considerable work. The budget document itself is, a couple hundred pages.
Right.
So the 23rd and the 30th, if necessary?
I think that's fine with staff. Yes.
Any objection to that?
What day?
No.
23rd?
The 23rd of April and the 30th of April, if needed.
I'm cool with it.
Hang on. 23rd.
Yes.
Oh, it's 24th. Oh, that's Orthodox Easter.
The 23rd is Little League grand opening.
Can't keep everybody happy, counselor.
Do you have a game that day? Must be the tallest one in the league.
And I still won't hit the ball.
Okay.
I've been there.
Do we don't need a motion on this, do we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. 23rd at 9 o'clock?
We can just schedule it.
All right.
Okay.
Item 3, under new business.
Budget.
Special event, Hogs and Ministry Blessing of the Bikes.
Yes, thank you. So this is an event that occurs every year. That's a normal year. Of course, with COVID, it did not last year. But this is a request from him, which is part of the River Church. It's for the blessing of the bikes. This is a standard request from them. It's before you tonight under new business, one, because it's less than 60 days away. But really, we would have pulled it down anyways. So they have included in their request that they be able to use Battle Alley as part of their event. We're not crazy about that from a staff DDA perspective, in that the council has already authorized Battle Alley to be used as a social district. And so by using it for motorcycle display, it takes away that whole social district aspect. And the event, as you'll note, is on Sunday, May the 1st, from 8 to 3:30 p.m. Well, by noon, the restaurants will be open and operating. Hopefully by May, we'll have a nice day. And so we'd like that to be open for the public. But we think also it'll make a good refuge or retreat place, even for the participants or the viewers of the event, that they can go somewhere, and maybe sit down, relax, have a coffee, ice cream, whatever the case may be.
Right.
I have reached out to representative or the applicant in this case. I have not received a response back, but I am still asking council, if you do authorize this, to eliminate the use of Battle Alley, and we will simply inform the applicant.
Agreed.
I agree.
That it was used, or it was approved, absent of Battle Alley. And we think it's a reasonable accommodation. And you know what, while we want to work with this group, I think that they'll be reasonable. We want them to work with us in this also.
Well, we also don't want motorcycles parked in Battle Alley either, so.
Well, no,
Period.
yeah, not, especially during the formation. Now, in the past, during Blessing of the Bikes, they have parked in Meadow Alley.
Right.
But the situation has changed a little bit in there, and we all need to just adapt.
No, I agree.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Hogshead Ministry blessing of the bikes, except for the usage of Battle Alley.
I'll second.
Motion and support. Any public discussion on this issue? I didn't think so. Roll call vote, please.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
McKenney.
Yes, motion carried. Item 4 under new business, special event, Holly Little League Opening Day Parade. Mr.
Yes.
Walker?
Thank you. This is the event that Mr. Kinnaman spoke about, which is on April the 23rd. It begins at 9 o'clock. This also is an event that occurs on a regular basis, or has occurred in the past. It's in your new business because there's less than 60 days prior to that. The event route that they wrote or entered on the application was Maple Street from the post office to the Carl Richter campus, so it would necessitate appropriate road closures by the Department of Public Works as well as the Police Department, which we're prepared to do. The event organizer contacted me and said that he thought that they would propose to change the route, shorten it a little bit, just because of the length of the route and the participants in the parade. So I think we can look for it to be shortened a bit, perhaps from the elementary school to Carl Richter. But we'll work that out with the applicant. What we're asking for tonight, if council is so disposed, is to approve the Holly Little League Parade, and you don't need to say anything additional. Staff will work out the details.
I'll make the motion.
I'll approve it.
Motion and support to approve the Holly Little League Parade. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McKenney.
Yes, motion carried. Any further comments, Mr. Walker?
No report.
Mr. Gildner?
None for me.
Ms. Bigger?
Nope, none for me, I guess.
Boards and commissions, Ms. Musgrave?
None for me.
Mr. Kinnaman?
Planning reviewed property, a building that they were wanting to build at the old car wash location, and we approved it with some contingencies for ZBA to review. There's a certain amount of glass that is required based on frontage because it's in commercial location, and so we were not able by ordinance to adjust that in planning, and so it needed to go to ZBA on that issue.
Has ZBA met with them yet?
That'll be somebody else's report.
Thank you, Mr. Kinnaman. Mr. Powers?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Perkins?
Historical met, and we're still working on the new guidelines for the historical district.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Nothing at this time, sir.
Mr. Delaney?
The ZBA did not meet this month, but I gather that we will be meeting next month. Beyond that, happy Patty's Day.
Okay, if there's no objection, we're adjourned.
Great.
Oh, wait, excuse me, Ryan Shield.
Ryan's got to
Ryan.
Yeah, we gotta have Ryan.
Got one more, Ryan.
Thanks, Mr. President and Council. Looks like a fairly lengthy report, so I'm going to try to speed it up as fast as I can. 7 new referrals for caseworker services. 4 were for attendance. 1 was for school incorrigibility. 1 was for prevention. 1 was for school threat. 6 were... I'm getting old, sorry about that. 6 out of the 7 referrals were from school. One was from Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, Love and Logic. Parenting Programs has 6 Holly parents attending. The Holly Area Youth Assistance Scholarship. Hiya is offering 2 $500 scholarships to graduating seniors. Applicants have been distributed to Holly, to the high school. Awarding will take place at the Holly Schools Awards Assembly on the 13th of May. Youth recognition. Hiya will be holding their youth recognition program. Again, information and application were made available at the chamber breakfast and have been sent to schools sponsoring bodies. The 2021 annual report, highest 2021 annual report will be sent out the week of March the 7th to sponsoring bodies and available on Hiya's Facebook page. New days of operation. The Hiya office will be open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, beginning the week of March the 14th. And that's my report. Thanks, Mr. President and Council.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
Mr.
Ryan.
Shield. We are adjourned.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Over there.